Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Well, I got up nice and early today, still got my coffee going, and we're going to continue on the SR-71 build today. And which one is it? It's this one here. It's the 1/72nd scale SR-71 by Academy. 안녕하세요 to you guys in Korea, as Academy is a Korean company. So, you guys saw yesterday I got quite a bit done, but I had a bunch to do. After painting it, I had to let it dry. After I let it dry, I put the decals on it. So this is where we're at. We're actually almost finished. So I put the decals on, all on the top and on the bottom. There's not a heck of a lot, but some of them kind of get drowned out in the black. You can see these red ones here. You don't really see them unless you're really looking for them. But this is where we're at now. So after I put the decals on, I put a nice 2 coats of clear coat on them to seal them all in, so they're all nicely sealed in, and that's done. And I actually put on the intake cone and the exhaust nozzle and the tail fin on the one side, and so I've got to do that on this side too. And then the assembly is complete, because that's all there is to it. There's not a whole lot to this kit, which is nice. It makes it nice and simple, and it goes together pretty straightforward. No big surprises. This kit, there's no huge gaps to fill in or anything like that, so I'm happy about that. It's a nice kit. If I was gonna, would I recommend it? Yeah, I would. Would I recommend the Revell kit from what I've seen online? No, I wouldn't. Just because the Revell kit, even though it's 1/48 scale and it's much bigger, it's not better. There's not much to say, oh hey, well, on that kit you have to assemble the engine, you got a lot more detail. Yeah, but you know what? Assembling the engine on the Revell kit just causes problems, simply because it doesn't go together all that great. So I'd say it's not a great big, bonus. So there we go. We've got the intake cone in, and now the exhaust nozzle. One thing to note, there is a left and a right when it comes to the engines. One has a tiny little notch, and one has a much bigger notch, and so they're meant to go left and right. And so that's something to keep in mind when assembling this. The little notch goes on the bottom. Line it up there. Put her in. Just like that. So the exhaust nozzle is on. Just give it a little bit of pressure and hold it for a second just to make sure. We're a little loose. I didn't get enough glue on there. So let's put glue on this side. Glasses off so I can see try this again. And we got a good seal that time. Okay, that's on. And last but not least, we have the tail fin. Tail fin just goes in there, and it kind of sits on its own, but that's not quite. It's a little too far. You got to kind of find a happy medium as to where the middle is. And it kind of only does sit on its tip. It doesn't really sit on the engine. Yeah. That's what happens when you try and glue things together too quickly. Fortunately, I didn't get glue anywhere that it wasn't supposed to be. I got really fortunate there. And it's still holding together properly. And my wings look like they're lined up good. And there we have it. Assembly complete. So the only thing left to do now is the weathering. There we have it, guys. That's it. Done. So what I'm going to do, every picture I've seen of this bird, this bird, because it is a blackbird, right? Every picture I've seen, this plane is not shiny and not glossy like this. It's looking very weathered. So I'm going to be using AK's dust effects on this guy to create a whole bunch of streaking. What I do find interesting about you look at pictures of this plane and all the dust, you would think, because this thing flies at like close to Mach 4 or something like that, you would think that all the streaking would be like just streaks straight back on this thing, but it's not. The dust always travels this way, and it's all running down the sides like this, along the top, just down each side, this in this kind of pattern, just back and forth. The only streaking really is like kind of on the tail fins. You don't really have streaking, it's more just kind of, yeah. So the only place that doesn't have it where the dust looks like it's running down is on the nose cones, on the intake cones, and that's about it. The rest of it is kind of just, what's the word, perpendicular, is that right? When it's not the same direction, when it's crossways, is that perpendicular? Yeah, because parallel is the same way, right? Normally on planes you see maybe on the front of the fuselage you see that draining down, but on the wings you got streaks, right? But not on this guy. In fact, I did find some pictures. Let me bring them up. I'll show you what I mean exactly. Where's my SR-71 folder here? Where's a good picture for that? Let me see, that one's not good. Where's a good picture that shows all the streaking and everything? I know I have it. There's a good picture of it. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. There we go. So you can see all that streaking just going down on the sides. No, it might be just because this has been sitting in the museum and it's got dust on it, but you get what I mean, right? Like it doesn't look like it's been, um, that it's not flowing back on the plane. It's just running down. So that's what I'm going to duplicate, or I'm going to try to duplicate on here with the dust effects. So I'll start doing that a little bit. And then when it's all done, I'm going to paint it with I'm going to do the flat clear. Excuse me. One of my first thoughts was maybe semi-gloss, but I think the flat clear will be a good one. To do. So I'm just going to do it on all the panel lines. I might do a few more like this, and I'll pull them down later. So just kind of like that, I think I don't want to go crazy on it. I could go crazy on it, but I don't really have to. A lot of this is going to be wiped away anyway. Where's my power line? There it is. Let's just go and pull that down there like that. Like that. And even though these are, the panel lines along here are kind of raised, but I'm still going to do that. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to streak these ones back, because this is flat, but I'm going to streak them. But on the engines here, I'm going to do that and follow our panel lines. It's another treat for you guys. I don't normally bore you guys with my weathering techniques. Now I noticed on the cones there's not really any streaks or anything, so I'm just going to go crazy with this. The nice thing about this with the enamel thinner, you can clean it right up and just clean it right off if you want. If you go too much on it, or you just think, oh, you know what, in the end it doesn't look good at all, I want to get rid of it. Well, that's a nice thing, just get rid of it. I'm going to do these because these panels are here. Panel line there, one at the back here, and of course we've got these, and we can accent the panel lines. Fin. I don't know what you want to call this little center piece. I just called it a fin. I'm probably totally wrong about what it's actually called. And just continue these down here. This is a tail fin. Actually, no, it's not. This is an elevator. So I'm going along the front edge of this, of the wing, and I'm going to streak that back. Okay, let's work on this side. I'm going to continue to go to this one. The end result, of course, is I'm going for a dusty plane. It looks like it's been flown, not straight off the assembly line. Okay, so you may have noticed I haven't done anything on the actual engines. Now, of course, I haven't clear coated the engines yet, so the streaking won't be that much, and I want to leave them. You might notice, the camera might pick it up, that this is a little bit of a different color. So what I did with the engines was, after painting them black, I put a rust wash on the nozzles. For the tail fins, I'm just going to do that and that and leave that. So there we go. Okay. So now that I've got fingerprint, close that up, clean off my brush. Now, the thing that's different, I don't know if this is actually a different formula of paint from what they use for their panel liner paint. The panel liner that I used on the 1/32 scale F15, even leaving it for 2 hours, just taking a cloth and wiped it clean, pretty much. I didn't have to use any enamel thinner at all. So I'm going to see if I can do that with this. So there's a little experiment I'm about to try here. Flipping over my paper towel here. So let's just see. I'm going to try this on the nose here and we'll see what it does. It does kind of wipe it away. It's not wiping it away perfectly. But it is doing a pretty good job. So what I'm going to want to do is I want it to be feathered a little bit more. So along here, it doesn't look that great. You can, oops, I just broke that loose. So I'll fix that in a minute. It's almost would be better if I went crazy with it to really give it a smear look. Because this, what it's doing now, is not that great of a look. Not in my opinion, anyway. I mean, it looks okay, but it's not the best. And I imagine my cone, my intake cones, are not going to be looking all that great. Because these are supposed to be, kind of need to be gentle on them. Yeah, it's not that great. I'm not super happy with the results here. But it doesn't look bad. It's not terrible. It's a good, let's call it a good start. Okay? That's what I'm going to call it, a good start. It just needs a little refinement. Right? And might as well do the tail fin while it's off. So what I kind of want to do, I just broke this one loose. Okay, so we're going to do the tail fins at the end. How about that, eh? And you see, it doesn't look as good as I would have liked. It doesn't feather it quite enough. So, of course, I could add take a little bit of thinner on the brush, and I can do that too. But I kind of want a little bit more, I think. Especially in here. And on the fins, I want more of a constant color. And same with the nozzles. So, for the nozzles, I want more of a constant, consistent color. Like that. Okay? The whole thing. Because that's what I've seen in the pictures. It's not like streaking, it's just the whole thing is covered. And we do the same with the fins. I want that whole section covered instead of just the lines. There. I think that's better. And I want to do this a little more like that. Not too much though. Kind of like that. That might be a little too much on that one, but that's okay. So we'll see how this looks after I'm done with that. Okay, I kind of want to bring these down all the way. couple over here on the cockpits just to accentuate them. And I think that's good. Okay, I think we're somewhere where I want it to be now. And tail fins, I'm going to slather them. I'm going to do that. Slather, that's a good name for it. That gives me the whole streaking effect on them. Okay, I think we're good to go as far as that's concerned. Let's see how we do now. Now I realize once I put a clear coat over top of this, it's going to take away a lot of it. It's going to kind of dull it up. It's not going to be quite as in your face. Hi Coco, thank you. Nice to see you back. Okay, so let's see how this works now. Wipe this off a little bit more, a little bit on the cockpit here. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, let's see how our cones look. Wipe them off. I think the cones I'm going to have to actually put a little bit of thinner on them. It's just a little too much, I think, this time around. You can see that's a pretty harsh line. So I'll have to apply a little bit of thinner to that. Let's see how our tail fins look. That's much better. That's a better look. Yeah, it's more blended in a lot better there. Definitely better. Definitely better. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Cones, not so much, but that's all right. This part, I keep breaking it apart. That looks a lot nicer, I think. A lot more blended in a little bit. I want to blend it just a little bit, but I need some thinner. So I'm going to be taking the AK Interactive White Spirit. This is just plain enamel thinner. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to do these first. Clean these up. Woohoo! That's a bit better. That's much better. See a little bit of accent on the panel lines. You can see a little bit in there. And that's kind of what we're going for, right? There we go. So tail fin's done. So I'm going to take a bit of thinner, and do I want to do it on the brush? I think I want to do it on a Q-tip. Always remember to put your lid back, otherwise you can have a catastrophe. Dry it off a little bit, and because it's going to activate that right away. You see it very easily gets rid of that paint very, very easily. But I just have a little too much on here, and I want it to blend a little better. I think that's better. I'd rather have it streak on the cone than have it just looks a little too harsh. You know what I mean? Just a little too harsh. Oh, that looks better. Okay, there's a few spots where it's just not quite blended enough for my liking, so I want it to, kind of give it a fade. There's a little spot I couldn't get in with my thing. Looks pretty good. Take my glasses off, see if I can get a better look here. Right at the panel lines is where I want to have a nice distinct line. That's a terrible. Cleaning it up right off the canopies, I think, helps distinct the canopies out from the rest of the plane. I think that is looking pretty good so far. And I might almost be ready to call it done. And ready to start on the belly. Sorry if I'm pulling the plane to my face, but it's trying to get at the right angle so that I can actually see what I'm doing. I think I cannot cheer bits. Well, thanks, Coco. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm not even a Twitch affiliate. affiliate yet, so I don't think you can. I don't have 50 followers yet, so I'm not even affiliate. But I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're almost there. Just a little bit on the nose here. Clean that up. And I think we're good. Okay. All right. So I think we're done for the top. As I continue on and keep doing more, I think that's good. Okay, so with the top done, we can move on to the bottom. Okay? So flip. Now at the bottom, there's a lot more panel lining on the bottom, but I have to clean that. That looks awful. Okay. So we'll start with messing it up. I'm going to move my tail fins out of my way here, and my exhaust nozzle. And we'll start drawing some lines again. Just following panel lines, and that's it. Just like that. That's all it is. Pretty simple. Basically, it's just going to be streaking these ones back. Of course, we have the landing gear bays. Now these lines, I'm going to be streaking backwards. But what I'm doing really is going to be fading them if I can. If I can get away with fading them, that would be awesome. And these panels I'm just going to drench, for lack of a better word. Drench the tail fin. Okay. There we go. And now to this side, drench this. Front leading edge here too, just like I did on this one. Now our lines. These ones need to go all the way. And final one right there. And I want to touch this up a little bit. Okay. Alright, I think that's good. Maybe I want to put a little in there just to accent those things. There we go. Okay. Do you remember my first model? Wow. My very first model. That would be a long time ago. I'm pretty sure my very first one was a car model, probably from Revell or Monogram back in the late 70s. It might have been the early 80s. Probably the early 80s. What it was though, I do not remember, unfortunately. I don't remember what my first model kit actually was. Just that it was most definitely a car. And it's probably by Revell Monogram, because that's what they did back then. And I was into cars as a kid. I loved cars. So yeah, probably something like that. It's going to be my guess. It's been so many years, it's kind of hard to remember. And I definitely don't have it anymore. I don't have any models from when I was younger. There was a time when I was a teenager that I was like, hey, these aren't cool. These aren't going to get me any girls. So I got rid of them. Probably going to break this nozzle off again too. I'm going to try not to. Okay, so there's that. So I need to feather this out a little bit here. So I'm going to get my thinner. It just doesn't look natural. Oh, that's nice. So what's your favorite RC? Do you prefer Traxxas? Softball stuff, nice. And you see it just doing that to randomize these couple of these streaks so that it doesn't look like it's all, you know, made by a machine, for lack of a better term. So you can do 45. What is that one? Do you mainly do, like, the RCs that you're doing? Is it are they cars or planes, or what are they? You see what I'm doing? I didn't want to have these really bright lines in the panel lines here, so I'm getting rid of them a little bit here. So toothpick allows me to get into those panel lines and actually remove them. I don't mind a little bit, but when it's, it wasn't my intention to actually draw in the panel lines on here. So if I can, I want to get rid of them a little bit. I don't mind a little bit showing. That's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't my intention to actually draw panel lines on here. So there we go. So I crashed it a long time ago. I haven't found the same cue again. RC airplanes. Okay. Yeah, myself, we were always into the RC cars when I was younger, doing RC car racing. That was a big thing when I was young. So now I'm just cleaning up the front leading edge of each one of these lines to give that more of a little bit of a streak effect. I think we are just about done. Just about ready for our top coat, I think. I think so, guys. I think so. That was a little bit wrong. Shouldn't have done that. that looks pretty good. I think we're there. I think we're there. I'll clean this up here. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Bottom is done. I know it's kind of shiny and it's a little bit hard to see, but that's kind of the way it looks now. So, I'm going to glue my engine back on and glue my tail fins back on. I'm going to have to touch up the tip of the engines. I'll glue it on first with my glue. Be very careful not to use too much glue. Definitely don't want it squirting out. It's always a bit of a temptation, you know, when a piece gets broken off, to use more glue to glue it back, right? You're thinking, oh, I didn't put enough glue, so I gotta put more. And, well, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's just because you knocked it off, right? Okay, so that's on. Tail fin number 1. I did have enough glue on it. I just happened to knock it, and yeah. There we go. Tail fin number 2. Tail fin number 2. Now let's make sure they're lined up. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So we can use a little bit better. Okay. So before I put the top coat on, I do need to touch up just the very, very edge of the exhaust nozzles, where the black is just kind of worn off a little bit from being manhandled. So just need to touch up a little bit. Not a whole lot. Go. A little more paint. There we go. Okay, that's done. I just need water to clean my brush, so I will be right back in a moment. I have the bad habit of putting much glue and wiping it off and leave the glue marks. Yeah, that's always a problem, right? And the glue, of course, eats the plastic, and you never really get back to the way it was, right? And that's always a problem. Anyway, I'm gonna clean my brush. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, brush is clean. Put that aside. Put that over there. So, gotta get ready for a nice flat clear coat. Set up my little table. And I'll set up my other camera so you can watch me paint. See how that looks here. Let's take a look here. That should be good. Okay. So I gotta grab my flat clear. This is just the Tamiya flat clear TS80. Because I just glued these, what is going on here? This is totally wrong angle here. Speaking of glued, now that it's moved, the glue didn't stick. See, that's what happens when you play with it too much. Okay, so this time you're going to stay there. Just stay. Stay. Yes, stay. Stay put. I should wait a few minutes. I mean, realistically, I should wait. But I don't want to wait. I'm impatient and I want to get this done, right? I'm going to get my little turntable here. Put that down so I can turn this thing around. While I paint it. So the good thing is, this will dry in, the paint will dry in a couple of minutes. So let me get my camera changed here. There we are. Sort of, you get to see it. So with my little turntable, I can turn it around and get the other side of it. Right? So, I have to get all the angles. Even up in the middle there. Even in the back. There we go. So there's our coat of flat clear. That'll be it for that. So I hate to remove previous dry glue when it does not stick. Yeah, me too. So that will only take a minute or two to dry, and it'll dry to a nice flat color, and it'll look pretty good. And it's also going to diminish the all that dust effects a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. It'll kind of dull it out a little bit, and yeah. So I'll put 2 coats of flat on there. I might only do 1 on the bottom because it's not as important to do the bottom. So yeah, and it's already pretty much tacky. It's almost dry already, just like that. To me, a paint is really fantastic for that, and that it doesn't take very long to dry at all. So I'll switch cameras so you can watch me do another coat. That's about it. There we go. Done. And that's it. So with that, pretty much done. I'm going to be doing the bottom half. That's pretty much it. It's still glossy because it's a little bit wet, but other than that, as it dries, it'll flatten out and it'll be done. And pretty cool looking plane, and I'm happy with it. It's a nice little model, and it's not too expensive. It's only what was it, 35 bucks Canadian for me to buy this model at the hobby store. It is only 1/72nd scale, but I mean, the Blackbird's a big plane, right? So at 1/72nd scale, it's easily as long as my 1/48 scale F-22 Raptor. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's already starting to dry up and look a little flatter. Well, on the camera, it still looks pretty shiny. And I guess it does have a little bit of a shine still. It's not totally flat, and that's good. That's kind of realistic to the plane. It looks good. I think it's a nice plane. I like it. So this dry yet? It is. It's dry to the touch. I wouldn't want to really handle it yet, but it is dry to the touch. I am going to take the masking off of the windows. It's been on here for so long. Here's one side. Now that it's painted, I'm wary about where I'm holding it. And there we go. Windows revealed. And of course, the windows on the cockpit are so small, which is another thing that I was pointing out in the first video. You can't really see any of the detail in the cockpit. The only things you really see are the red headrests, and that's about it. The windows are so tiny on this plane. Although the canopies are pretty big, the canopies really have such small windows. Okay, so I am going to do a coat on the bottom, but I'm going to do that off camera as almost 9 o'clock and I got to get going. So that's going to be it. Well, thank you very much, Coco. I appreciate that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I am happy with it. I'm almost sad that I'm going to be selling this. But I did build this for a specific person. This is not for my own enjoyment. So, yeah. So that's it. There we have it. The SR-71 Blackbird, 1/72 scale. And yeah, so with that, I'm going to end the stream here. I know it seems like a short time, Coco. You kind of caught me about halfway through today. But yeah, that's it. That is the SR-71 Blackbird in all its glory. It's too bad that by the time anybody heard of this plane, it had basically been retired. But yeah, nice plane. So, going to end that here, end that for today. And next time I'm going to be continuing my build on the BMPT Terminator tank, the Russian. I'll continue that tomorrow. And yeah, so with that, I'm going to do my usual plug here for my YouTube channel. If you've made it this far in the video, why not go in the middle there and hit that like button, and over here you can hit the subscribe. And once you subscribe, you can hit that little bell. I think the bell's over here. And then you get notified every time I upload a video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, why not head over to my Twitch channel? I'll put links down in the description box below. And you can head on to my Twitch and you can follow me on there. And you can talk to me just like Coco has been doing all this morning. And yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. And once this is done, I will take some still pictures of it and I will upload it onto my Instagram. And you can take a look at it there. And yeah, so with that, I'm going to call it a day. And thanks, Coco, for the chat. And thanks for watching. Thanks for coming out. You guys are great. All the awesome support you guys give me is really, really, really just fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, thank you, Coco. And yeah, so until then, we'll see you all in the next one.